All right, if you've ever played My Singing Monsters, you know it's this huge, sprawling world full of creatures. But how does it all fit together? It's way more complex than you might think. So today, we're going to break it all down, from the absolute basics to the rarest monsters in the entire game.
Let's just start with a number, and that number is 536. Yeah, that's how many unique monsters are in the game right now. And to make any sense of that massive orchestra, the game uses this really cool system of classes and elements.
So what is a monster in this world, really? Well, they're not just cute creatures. They actually pull double duty. First, they're musicians. Each one adds its own unique voice or instrument to your island's song. But they're also your economic engine, churning out the currency you need to build out your world. So here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with the foundational elements. Then we'll get a little weird with the mystical and ethereal monsters. After that, we'll dive into the monsters that totally break the rules. And finally, we'll look at the different variants that make collecting such a huge part of the game.
All right, let's get into it. Part 1, the foundational elements. You know, just like any good song, the monster world starts with some pretty simple building blocks. These are the monsters everyone meets first.
Okay, so it all starts right here with these 5 natural elements: air, plant, earth, water, and cold. Think of these like the primary colors of the monster universe. Every single natural monster you breed is going to be some combination of 1, 2, 3, or even 4 of these. This is the absolute bedrock of the whole breeding system. So natural monsters are kind of your starting lineup. They're common, they're pretty easy to breed, but right alongside them, you've got the fire monsters. And what's super interesting here is that the fire element used to be considered natural, but later on it got spun off into its own class, which added this whole new layer to the game's foundation. Okay, part 2, mystical and ethereal beings. So once you've gotten the hang of the natural world, the game starts throwing monsters at you from, well, a completely different plane of existence. We're moving way beyond those basic elements now. And this is where the creativity just explodes. Magical monsters bring in 4 totally new elements. We're talking psychic, bone, light, and fairy. And that opens up entirely new islands and new songs. But then you get the ethereals. They're even more mysterious, with elements like plasma, shadow, and mech. See, these aren't just little variations. They're like whole new branches on the monster evolutionary tree.
This chart really lays out the difficulty curve perfectly, doesn't it? Naturals? Pretty straightforward. Magicals? Okay, they take a bit more work. But ethereals? Man, they are on a whole other level. They are notoriously tough to breed, which makes getting one a huge deal for any player.
Just let that sink in for a second. A 1% chance. This quote really hammers the point home. If you successfully breed an ethereal monster, like a ghost or a grumpire, that is a major, major achievement. It takes a ton of luck and a whole lot of patience. It's a real rite of passage for dedicated players. All right, section 3, the unconventional monsters. So we've talked about all the monsters you can breed, but what about the ones you can't? This next group pretty much throws the breeding rulebook right out the window. Yeah, this is a completely different ballgame. You've got supernatural monsters that you have to wake up. You've got seasonals that only pop up during certain holidays. Celestials start as statues that you have to bring to life. And then there are the legendary monsters who actually add lyrics to the songs. Every single one of these requires a totally unique strategy that has nothing to do with standard breeding. The Wobblins are a perfect example of this. You can see the process here. You buy a dormant statue, figure out which monster eggs it needs, and then you have to race against the clock to breed those specific eggs and zap them into the statue. It's not about luck so much as it is a high-stakes test of how efficient you are at breeding. And the seasonal monsters are so cool because they connect the game to our world. You've got the spooky Punkleton around Halloween, the festive Yule for the holidays, and of course, Schmookle for Valentine's Day. The fact that they're only available for a short time makes them these super sought-after collectibles that kind of mark the passing of the year.
Okay, on to our last section, a world of variety. So on top of all these different classes we've talked about, there's one final layer of complexity. Almost every monster comes in 3 different flavors. And this is where the collecting part of the game gets really serious.
Right. So for most monsters in the game, it's not just one and done. There are 3 tiers of rarity. You have your standard, common monster, then the harder-to-get rare version, and finally, the ultra-elusive epic variant. And this table breaks down the key difference perfectly. Getting a rare is mostly about luck and patience. Use the exact same breeding combo as a common, it just might take a lot longer. Epics, though, they are a completely different beast. They need their own unique, sometimes secret breeding combos, and they're only available for very short periods. That makes them the ultimate prize for a true collector. So at the end of the day, what's the point of these variants? Well, two things. First, they're amazing collectibles with these incredible, unique designs. And second, they're a smart investment because they generate more currency. It's this perfect little loop that rewards dedicated players with both bragging rights and a stronger in-game economy. So let's put it all together. It all starts with that simple foundation, right? The natural and fire monsters. They're the bedrock of the whole game, built from just a handful of core elements that every single player has to master. But from there, the world just explodes. You move into the magical classes, bringing in totally new elements and sounds, and then you hit the ethereals, which are really the first big test of your skill and your luck. And just when you think you've got it figured out, the game breaks its own rules with the unconventional monsters. The supernaturals, the seasonals, the celestials. They force you to engage with the game in totally new ways, beyond just breeding. And then, draped over almost this entire system, you have the rare and epic variants. This creates this incredibly deep and challenging endgame for collectors that keeps even the most hardcore players hunting for that next prize. And hey, if you thought 536 was a big number, get a load of this. The folks who really dug into the math figured out that with all the possible combinations, the theoretical number of monsters is over, wait for it, 3 trillion. That number is just insane, and it shows you the almost infinite potential that's built right into the game's DNA. You know, it's this incredibly complex, layered system that makes the monster world so much fun to get lost in. It's a universe that starts with these simple, easy-to-learn rules that just blossom into this amazing complexity. And it really just leaves you with one big question. With a universe this vast and a system this creative, what in the world are they going to think of next?